Welcome back to the Stormcast, everybody. This is a podcast where we talk all TABC sports. My name is Ellie Hochberg. I'm with Oren Glickman. How are you doing today, Oren?
It's always a pleasure to be with you two fine gentlemen. A lot's happened in the world of TBC athletics the last few days, and looking forward to dissecting it all with you.
Me as well. We will begin today's show with an interview with star defenseman for the JV hockey team, Dovid Ratzersdorfer. Welcome to Dovid Ratzersdorfer, former goalie turned star defenseman for the JV hockey team. So this is the first week of JV hockey action, with TBC had a disappointing loss against Hafter and rebounded with a resounding win over MTA. So Dovid, what do you think went wrong against Hafter how do you think you were able to rebound against MTA?
Well, I think against Hafter, we made a lot of mistakes, a lot of mental mistakes. For example, when we brought up the ball, we were offsides a lot of times. And our defensemen, we were slow to get the ball out. Our offensemen, we didn't double the corners. The offensemen didn't move around enough. And so we kind of were making mistakes that were hurting ourselves. And when they scored, we didn't keep our heads in the game. And we were hurting ourselves mostly. But then against MTA, we locked in and we were able to fix our mistakes. We got a lot less offsides, and our offense were moving around. Our defense were getting out quickly, and we scored 7 goals. It really worked.
So I think you're going into this season with a little bit of a chip on your shoulder, and some of the motivation could come from the fact that these two guys wrote a not so memorable article about JV's misfortunes last year. In your mind, what makes this team stronger than last year's team? And what do you think is a realistic goal in terms of this team? You know, is it practical to talk about from missing the playoffs entirely to winning a JV championship the following season?
Well, I think last year our team we didn't make the playoffs, obviously, but we definitely could have, and a lot of our games were winnable. I think we could have won all of our games easily. I think SAR was the only team that we couldn't beat easily, but I still think we could have beaten them. So our team was still good. We kept on losing by 1. We went into overtime, letting up a goal in the end of the game. And this year, well, hopefully that doesn't happen. But I think we have better chemistry than last year. I think our offensemen are getting many more shots on net, which last year was a problem. We didn't get enough shots on net. And yeah, I think it is realistic to think that we could go from not making the playoffs to a championship. And obviously, we need to work hard to get there, and it won't come easy. But I think it's realistic.
David, you've been part of a championship team in Mariah. What did that team has that this team has?
Well, that team had unbelievable chemistry. It was kids that have been playing ice hockey together since they were little, and they were just amazing together. I think our team has that in some aspects, but that team was next level.
So, as you mentioned, last year there was a lot of close games, but this year there's a lot of tough teams on the schedule with 5 games against SAR, DRS, and Frisch. So, what do you think what lessons and what strengths can you take from the MTA game and try to put them into these 5 really tough games that are going to be, of course, all the games are hard, but those are really standing out as really tough?
Well, I think most importantly, we just need to get shots on net. We just need to keep throwing the ball on net, making good passes, and crashing the net. Because last year we didn't get that many shots on net, and we didn't get that many goals. The only way to score is if you put it on the net, and once you put it on the net, there'll be rebounds. So I think that's a major thing.
Obviously, you guys have a chance to play and hopefully in front of a packed house for your first home game of the season on Thursday night against SAR. What are the expectations going in? How do you set the tone early? We're talking about the defending champs here. Granted, Dean Cattler crossed lines and is now on our team. But what do you think? What are the keys to the win in that one, going up against the defending champs?
I think for one, as I said before, our offensemen really need to step up. They need to get a lot of shots, and they need to move around. And our defensemen also, they have some good offensemen. And they, as we've seen from their past games, they know how to work together. So we need to make sure to watch the man in the middle, make sure to watch the guy in the corner, and make sure to keep track of them when they're moving around.
Well, thank you for joining the show, David. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to rooting for you and the rest of the JV hockey team on Thursday night and throughout the rest of the season.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Such an honor. You're the first student athlete on the show. First of many appearances, hopefully.
Yes, thank you.
All right, take it easy.
So as we just mentioned, um, as JV hockey got off to a rocky start, but was able to rebound. Anything you'd like to add to that, Oren? Or
That's a good Hafter team that they went up against. A few days before they lost to Frisch and an overtime at Frisch. I think Frisch is one of the favorites to win the JV league this year. So, the boys fought hard, and wow, boy, did they really respond at MTA the following few days later. I say our home game on Thursday night is going to be a big one. It's really going to show us a lot about this team. First home game for a lot of these kids, playing at the high school level. It's going to be a totally different experience compared to what they were experiencing in middle school, playing for Mariah and Noam, RYJ. So they have a great opportunity in front of them. 2-1 and 1-2 are big differences in regular season records. So, hopefully they come away with the dub and should put them on a good path for the rest of the season.
yeah, and what especially impressed me in the game against MTA, this stat going around that TBC had an unheard amount of shots on net, which unclear how accurate the numbers were, but just as David was talking about, shots on net, that's how you score goals, obviously, and that's really the key to this team's success. So that really showed me how they're rebounding. Well, on the other side of the hockey, other side, meaning varsity, we have the varsity team, which is 4-0, which has had 3 resounding victories since that first game. Oren, who has really impressed you in these past 3 games? Any surprises? Any MVP?
I think on our last show, we talked about the fact that these JC Hilo games were not going to be much of a battle for them. And lo and behold, we were proven right. I think what's great about those 2 wins is that everybody had a chance to show their stuff and show what they're capable of. This is not an insult to any of our opponents. We always treat our opponents with respect and we take them seriously. I think it just goes to show how deep our TABC varsity hockey team is and how, the last line could be starters at these schools that were blowing out. So, the talent's just there from top to bottom. And SAR is really this SAR game on Thursday for the varsity is big. It's going to ultimately determine who finishes out on top in the conference and avoids DRS until the championship.
Yeah, and as you were saying about everyone really getting to play. Ellie Mason, the freshman, starting in net against JEC. Really impressed. Again, JEC, it's obviously not exactly competitive matchup for TABC, but still impressive nonetheless that he was able to go up against the varsity team. Soft impressive score. As you mentioned, really everyone really got to play. And then as the game against SAR is especially important because there's only so many ultra competitive games this year. Of course, the game against DRS, as we mentioned, the game against SAR, one more, but other than that, I mean, there's not so many other games that will really determine seeding and that will really prove how good the CABC team is.
Well, I would say the varsity is heavily favored on Thursday night against SAR, where our JV, it's either SAR's favored or could be close to a toss-up. I imagine SAR is favored. Maybe it'd be different if Dean Cattler was healthy, but that unfortunately is not the case. I think the biggest thing that I'm looking out for when varsity plays SAR on Thursday is the sophomores who won a championship last year at SAR, and now that they're moving up to varsity, how easy of a transition is it for them? Moving up to that next level. We've seen it a lot where JV champions, flounder when coming up to varsity. They don't have instant success right away. But if these talented juniors that SAR had last year, such as Jacqueline Hart, for example, TBC could be in for a big test, and they should not take anything for granted. Also, I think the fact that TABC has not played in any close games this year, are they ready for that? Does Coach Moose have them prepared for that?
Yeah. So this week is really going to be a telling week with 3 games in the next from Thursday to Thursday, 3 games. One against Frisch, which of course the first time we played them was expected to be closer. We'll see if Frisch can put up a fight. But as you mentioned, really no ultra competitive, super close games so far. So this this SAR game, we'll see, and we'll see maybe against Frisch how this JVC team can do, how this varsity team can do in a close game. So I think we'll wrap up hockey from there. But I think moving on to really what the team that's had the most games in the past since the last episode is this varsity basketball team, which played like 4 games in 5 days or something like that with Cooper, and then playing the Hope with finishing third in Cooper, and then going back home for next day home opener against Flatbush. So of course, Oren, you were with the team in Cooper. What did you see from this team? What impressed you? What are your thoughts?
Well, the beauty of going away for these tournaments is that I have you and Noah staying back here to be my eyes and ears for other athletic teams. So even when my body's not here, I'm still able to track our progress regularly thanks to you guys. So I appreciate that. It was a very nice weekend. I want to give a shout out also to Rabbi Atfel, our very own Rabbi Atfel, for joining the group for the weekend. Obviously we came in as the 3 seed with high expectations to go all the way. Unfortunately, came up short in the semifinals against DRS. That could be a team that we'll face again in March when the stakes are higher. So we have a lot of motivation now going into that. I think the tournament got some flack for how they seeded some teams, but at the end of the day, their top 4 made the semifinals, and their top 2 made the finals, and the 1 seed won it all. So you got to give them their credit. I think I saw a team that still has its work cut out for them and are not playing their best basketball yet. But they will become March time. I mean, I saw some of that better basketball last night in the home opener against Flatbush, and our guys were exhausted, but they were still ready to go, to their credit. Listen, when Eyal Kinderlehrer is in foul trouble, the TABC team is in trouble. I think that's something that I drew in the overtime win against Mag and David. We need Yona Mandel and David Sachs to hit their shots. Jonathan Faber, I think he had his coming out party on Saturday night against DRS. While I don't think we played all that well up until the fourth quarter when we rallied, Jonathan Faber had a great game that night. And shout out to his father for saying that he was due for one. It worked. Someone who I think deserves to get more of a look in terms of being a regular in the rotation is Shlomo Wenger. We played Hillel in the third place game, and consolation games are, people like to rest their starters, but it's also a good opportunity to see what you have. It makes you question things, and Shlomo Wenger pounced on that opportunity. So I would look out for Shlomo Wenger. He might not have Ayal's size, but he definitely has the physical strength to go up against any big in the league. And while Ayal's our star player, Akiva Borgen's not too far behind. Akiva Borgen's stock just keeps growing and growing and growing. The types of moves that he's able to make when splashing in the lane, and it's just seeing his evolution as a player from freshman year to junior year. It's unbelievable. We didn't win the whole thing, which we would have liked, but overall it was a good weekend. A lot of ups and downs, but I'm sure a lot of lessons that will make us stronger as we head towards our ultimate goal come March time in terms of winning the Yeshiva League and the Sarachek tournament.
Yeah, I have a question for OG. Last year, obviously, this varsity basketball team did not get off to a great start. They lost to Heschel. I think they lost to Hillel too. Obviously, they weren't playing so well, and at the end of the year, they came back and they gelled as a team. How important was this Memphis tournament to gel as a team?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say already that we're above our mark because we started out the season last year 1-2, and we're already 2-0 in the Yeshiva League. It's not the same Flatbush team as last year that made the finals, but they're always well coached, they're always well organized. So the fact that we won in convincing fashion, I think that's something that we can build on. In terms of Memphis, Memphis always has sort of a preseason vibe to it, but I think because it was later in the year this year, we treated it more as an in-season tournament. And even the JDS game, where we were highly favored, We didn't blow them out of the water or anything like that. The Magan game, that was one of the best first quarter performances that I've seen. I think we're up 14 at the end. And then Magan's star player, Josh Shabbat, started roaring back for the team. And thanks to some heroics from Dovid Ratzersdorfer and Eyal avoiding fouling out, we were able to come away with the dub and go into Shabbos on a high note. And in terms of the DRS game, maybe we lose that game one time out of 100. Our guys were saying even after the game, we know we're better than them. We know we can beat them. So I think this Memphis tournament, I think it also made us a little bit more humble. There were a lot of people, including maybe you guys, that thought that we were the ultimate favorite to win the Yeshiva League, and I think now DRS is the favorite there. But maybe it's in our best interest to not go in as the favorites because you have less of that pressure now. So the team has another game on Thursday night. They go out to Heschel. Heschel's varsity is always known to be sort of an unknown in the league. They seem to be okay, although they lost by 40 tonight to SAR, so who knows. And then after
they beat us last year, so
right, they did. They gave us. In fact, I believe it was a back-to-back, or maybe it was a Monday then Wednesday. But Heschel did beat us. At TABC. So we're not taking anything for granted there. And I think based on their first four, I think they have a real opportunity to start out the season 4-0. And then they play Hillel again next Wednesday. And unfortunately, they won't have Yonah Mandel for that because Yonah Mandel is leaving to go to Israel to check out yeshivas. So, it's the next man up. If Yonah's not there, the big game could be from Yonatan Faber. The big game could be from Avraham Shur. I think we learned that, this team does have weapons on the bench, and this team has other weapons besides Eyal Kinderler, Akiva Borgen, who I just mentioned. So, yeah.
Yeah, and just to go off what you're saying, we know Eyal Kinderler is Eyal Kinderler, Akiva Borgen's Akiva Borgen. The real question is, how's the rest of this team going to do? There's tons of talent on the throughout the team. It's really a matter of will they step up against other team, against DRS. That was really the main. Yeah, exactly. There's tons of talent. There was only 4 guys who even got points on the board against DRS. If these really talented players who have shown the potential, who could score a Dovid Ratzersdorfer, we saw it against MDY, can really, if they could put it all together at once. This team is, we can see why it's the favorite. Obviously, they almost beat DRS with only four players getting on the board, but I think that's really truly important for this team's success.
I think what's interesting after the DRS game is that Coach Oz singled out 3 players, and they were the big 3 among seniors: Yonah Mandel, Dovid Ratzersdorfer, and Eyal Kinderler. He thought that in the DRS game we made a lot of mental mistakes a senior should not be making in their 4th year playing high school basketball. And Akiva Borgen and Yonatan Faber were playing like the more experienced players out there, and they're only juniors. So, if Eyal, Dovid, and Yonah clean all that stuff up, and we commit fewer turnovers, and we actually execute, and we're hitting our open shots, nobody can touch us. Not DRS, not EULA on the West Coast, nobody.
Yeah, and again, just to finish up with the game at Flatbush, it was it got off to a slow start, not exactly the hottest start, but really picked it up as a lot of people who aren't necessarily, of course, Eyal Kinderler ended up being the leading scorer, not necessarily him, ended up contributing in a big way.
Yeah, I think Akiva Borgen and Dovid Ratzersdorfer also hit double figures. Yonah's shot was going down again, which is something that we really need if we're going to make any type of deep run. Shlomo Wenger's now seems to be in the rotation. So it's amazing what a 3rd place consolation game can do for your minutes. I think Faber's 3 was on again. He just needed one game to get a boost, and that was the DRS game. So one game leads to another, and leads to another, and that'll get your confidence up. So I think the answer in terms of TABC varsity, we just have to keep winning. We just have to keep playing games. The more games we play, the more comfortable we'll get out there, and the fewer mental mistakes we're going to commit. So I have no problems. I have no concerns with this team whatsoever. Yep, we finished 3rd in Memphis. We aim for 1st. It happens. At the end of the day, the ultimate prize is the Yeshiva League and the Sarachek tournament.
Yeah, and just one final point about varsity hockey. As we forgot to mention that this varsity hockey team was playing without Eden Rausman and Benzion Kaiser, two of the better players.
And Shlomo Wenger.
Yeah, and Shlomo Wenger, of course. As they were in Memphis at the Cooper tournament, so they were, of course, good thing that they weren't playing like any of the top tier teams in the Yeshiva League.
People will think that's just a coincidence. It's strategic there. That's how we do schedules.
Yeah. That's really just one final point about varsity. So, and then just wrap things up with.
Oh wait, can I say one thing before we wrap up?
Mm-hmm.
For everyone watching, please tune in Thursday night. Our first game on TABC TV YouTube channel. We have varsity hockey first at 6:40. Then we have JV hockey. Me and Rafi Kaplan will be on the call. Still trying to figure it out for varsity hockey. So please tune in TABC TV Thursday night.
6:45 p.m.
You guys also want to quickly talk about JV ball?
Yeah, JV ball, of course. That's how I was gonna wrap it up. But honestly, two relatively, for me, unknown wins against two road games. Two games that weren't necessarily super close without broadcast. I was not able to go to either.
Thursday's game against Heschel on the road will be broadcast. So while we're all in TABC cheering on our hockey teams, everyone can have their phones out, and instead of watching Thursday Night Football, because it's a pretty bad Thursday Night Football game, you can tune into the TABC basketball doubleheader at Heschel while watching our hockey team play at home against SAR.
Or you can watch the Rutgers game.
Or that.
So as I mentioned, there's not much known about those two games. Do you have any insight, anything that we wouldn't know, that you would know, like who really played well, who impressed?
Well, Ezra Adams is a stud. There's no question about it. I think we knew he'd be good. We just didn't know he'd be really good right away. A jump from 8th grade to freshman year in terms of basketball is a real difference and a real adjustment, but he seems to be acclimating well. Zachy Lowe is continuing to, prove why maybe he should have gotten more of a consideration last year in terms of being in the rotation, but all's good. All's good. And Sammy Haberman's going to continue to be the leader of this team. There's no doubt about that. Listen, two easy opponents to start off the season. In fact, a third easy opponent's on the way too. Heschel JV is never strong. So they have an easy 3-0 right in front of them. And their first test will ultimately be next Wednesday when they host Hillel in a JV varsity doubleheader. Yeah,
so just preview the next episode. Hopefully we will have some JV basketball players on for next episode. But after those two games against Heschel and then Hillel, within the next week or so, they have a little bit of a lull in the schedule.
It's a big swing, yeah. It's a big swing.
Exactly. Until back-to-back games, well, obviously not a day, but 2 games in a row against SAR within a week. So that's really when the schedule really heats up. So I think that'll be all for this episode.
I guess I would say, I don't think I don't think you guys are as big are experts as much when it comes to the teams that maybe don't get as much recognition. The wrestling team, the ice hockey team,
the softball team,
the outdoor soccer club, which is a club.
So if there's anything, Oren, if you want to go on for a few minutes.
But, I just want to acknowledge that we recognize all of our student athletes here on this show.
The chess team. You've got the chess team.
They're not under my jurisdiction.
Yeah. But Oren, if you want to speak about them for a few minutes, I was
going to actually plug if any of our student athletes on that team want to educate our two hosts over here about the successes of their team. You have an open invitation anytime to come on the show.
Yeah, I'll be the first to admit I am not holding. I don't know as much. I don't know about as much about those, but I am happy to learn, and I think we're all happy to host anyone who would like to teach us and our viewers about their sport. So just that's big week of TABC sports coming up after first real week of sports. 4 big games on Thursday night. We'll see you all then.
TABC first Tuesday.
And a 5th too. Wrestling goes to MTA for a match on Thursday.
Wrestling, that just shows my amarettos, shows my not knowledge.
Don't forget next week's short week. We have 2 games against Hillel and a game against Frisch. So
right on that Monday, correct. Yeah. And a wrestling home match against SAR. I did it again.
Oh my gosh! Thank you all for listening. Have a great week. Tune in to all the games.